All right, what's going on, Jennifer? Welcome to the show. Excited to have you. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me here today. Yeah, busy with getting plans ready for 2025, and yeah, just things are good.
Cool. All right. Well, we first met, like many guests, through Facebook and networking. And what stood out to me from just your content, your profile, was you are very systems driven. You have a lot of processes, and you specialize in direct bookings. And of course, you do more than that. We'll talk about, I guess, your portfolio and other ways. But it really jumped out at me because I think a lot of people, as the market has maybe shifted, or maybe the heyday of just getting tons of bookings for not even
Mhm.
having an amazing property has shifted. People are getting more creative and looking for ways to optimize their properties or improve revenue or get direct bookings. And that was the thing that really caught my eye from not just your profile, but some of your responses to people that had asked questions in other groups. And I saw how you responded and what you gave insight into. So I guess I'd like to start there. Could you give the audience an overview on what your current portfolio looks like, and then maybe specifically how you have some direct bookings set up for your properties, and what percentage maybe bookings you get from direct bookings?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I have two properties. My first property is what that we bought was in the Canadian Rockies. And it's a ski and golf property. And we actually just hit the 10-year mark of having bought that property, which is pretty cool and exciting for lots of reasons. Because when we bought it, I had no idea what we were getting into when we bought it, right? It was really just originally just meant to be a vacation rental spot for us. And we were shuttling back and forth from the ski hill all the time, and we needed a sort of a spot. And so we bought that place initially for ourselves. And then I was like, being the real estate enthusiast that I am, I was like, oh, maybe we could, rent this when we're not using it. And you got to remember, this is like way back, the 10 years ago, like Airbnb wasn't even in my market. It's just a small market. And it wasn't like, even the whole short-term rental, vacation rental, Airbnb wasn't really like super common, right? So I started to do that. And so that property has been great for us. And it's, like I said, we have owned it for 10 years. I immediately got a direct booking website in place for that property. And the reason I did is because shortly after I started to rent it, I actually rented on VRBO or Vrbo at the time. And it used to be just like an advertising site. But Expedia ended up buying them within like, I think it was 2016 or late 2016, early 2017. And I was like, whoa, I was like, I'm not sure about this. What kind of changes are going to happen? And it made me really kind of nervous to have my business be so fully reliant on a really large multinational company, right? And then I was worried about what fees are they going to introduce or what are they going to change and all of that. So I immediately from that, like as soon as that announcement happened, that following week, I started building a WordPress website. So that's when I've been actually taking, yes, so direct bookings since, well, probably 8 or 9 years. And then this other property that we have is in Maui. So we added that property in 2021. And because I already had, of course, all the experience around direct bookings and the systems in place, then that was an easier add to onboard that and get a website for that property as well. But yeah, so I would say about 50% of all my bookings come direct and or are repeat bookings. And my strategy is I believe in diversifying. So I do believe that the channels like Airbnb, Vrbo, whoever, whatever other OTAs, they should be part of your overall booking strategy. They shouldn't be your only. They shouldn't be all of it. And so if somebody books through and gets my property, comes and books and stays with us the first time, that's fine. But then the second time they come, they book direct through me. So that's sort of
Mm.
my strategy is either capture them off my website or they book through the OTA the first time, but then if they're coming for a returning stay, then they come and they book direct through me or they book directly through my website. So yeah, I know that was
Cool.
sort of a lot of background there. So I'll stop talking.
That's awesome. No, that's amazing. 50%. That's definitely the highest of anyone that I've come across. So would love to dig into that. So of the 50, or it doesn't have to be percentage wise, but would you say most of those people are finding you from staying at your property once, or is it a pretty even split of, like, let's say half of that group find your property on their own from ads or SEO, or the other half find from staying at your property in the past? Like how does that look in your business now?
Yeah, I'd say heavy repeat guests for sure. So I do get the occasion, not the like, not yeah, I do get a handful of guests that will find me direct. I think like I don't, you know, I have multiple businesses, and so definitely like we can probably always do better on the SEO and the ads. I don't run ads to my properties just because I only have one in each market, and so there's reasons why I don't run ads, but I would recommend them if you're, especially if you're a property management company. So most of mine are repeat, but yes, people will find my direct booking website, but I think how they find it is that I have both my properties have names, which I highly recommend. That if you should name your property and you should use that name all through your OTA descriptions, because then the really savvy travelers will see your name, Google your name, find your direct booking website, book direct with you, and they save fees. You usually like I have it so that strategically I make more money off of my direct bookings and I have more control. Obviously, I have control of the funds. And then with my repeat guests, I'm very strategic with my messaging. So from the time a guest books with me, like from the inquiry to the time that they've made their booking to welcome messages, checkout messages, and then after they've, left the property, I'm very I'm always talking about next time if you'd like to stay again, contact me directly. Here's my website. Like so yeah, so I'm sharing that with guests in messaging, sharing that at the property so people know they can book direct if they would like to book their next stay direct, and people do. Like very very few people will go back to the channels and then try to book my property. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, very cool. You mentioned that it's about the communication and you're planting the seed and following up on it. Is there anything that you need to watch out for or think about, like to not get in trouble with Airbnb or Vrbo,
Mm.
like driving people off the website? And if you do anything, what specifically do you say, or how do you kind of word your messages to avoid
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Great question. Yeah, so you obviously want to be careful that you're not breaking any terms of service. And so when it comes to depending on the channel, so anybody that books direct, obviously I can say what I want.
Yeah.
Anybody who books through Vrbo, because I use a property management system, which is the one I use is OwnerRez, I am actually merchant on file. So what happens is I get the initial booking through Vrbo, and then I handle all payments, and then I take all communication by email. So therefore, again, I'm kind of controlling the conversation, and it's no longer on the channel. And that because I am API connected, then yeah, I am actually the one that's processing payments. So I am, it kind of just shifts. So they become more of a booking agent for me rather than sort of owning the booking like throughout the whole stay. Not to say that they don't like that they wouldn't get involved, I suppose, if there was an issue during the stay, but because I'm the one that handles the payments, then I really become number one like as part of the whole booking. So when it comes to Airbnb, yeah, I'm a little bit more careful in my messaging, but like ultimately there's a couple of things. One is I capture all emails from all guests no matter where they're staying, so I have that opportunity then once the stay has ended to have that conversation with that Airbnb guest afterwards, and therefore I am not breaking any terms of service. So I'm not trying to take an existing booking and convert them to a direct booking. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like if
Yeah.
somebody made an inquiry to me off Airbnb, I wouldn't be trying to then like reroute them to a direct booking for that particular stay, but I'm just trying to kind of for their future stay. And I don't think that that's against terms of service for Airbnb. Like I'm not telling them to go to my website. I'm just saying, please contact me if you're interested in staying again. Reach out directly, and they have my email. So yeah, I mean I am a bit careful in terms of what I say, but like again, like I don't think Airbnb owns that guest forever into the future. I mean, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
they did stay with you ultimately. There has to be an exchange at some point of you sharing that guest and that they become your guest at that point. So that's kind of how I look at it. But great question.
100%. That makes total sense. So, let's say someone's listening, starting out. They may have a handful of properties. Their main platforms are Airbnb and Vrbo. They don't have any direct bookings, but they are going to start using StayFi and they want to start emailing their past guests. So for that person, what would be like the framework or recommendation for them to start, or any like best practices? Or is it that simple? Get the emails and just go on ChatGPT, get a template message, and follow up with the people.
Yeah, so it is easy. I would say that before you start capturing email addresses, that you already have a property management system and a hosted direct booking website in place. So, like, if you do want to have, you do want the booking process to be seamless for your guests, right? So, you want to be able to allow them to pay by credit card, and you want them to be able to go and check availability and get a quote and all of that. So I would recommend that the first thing you do is get a property management system in place and a hosted website. There's a couple of different ways about doing that. Most property management systems have really turnkey hosted websites that you can get up and running that are really easy. And that would be my recommendation for somebody that if you're just starting out and you're looking for something turnkey, that's a good way to start. If you want something fancier down the road, you can always build your own custom website and do that and then transfer the site. And then as far as capturing emails, yeah, there's a couple of different ways I would recommend that you capture emails. Yes, StayFi is a great way to capture emails, and OwnerRes is actually has a partnership with StayFi, and it's free to use StayFi if you have if you're on board OwnerRes as your property management system. And but I capture all emails, at least the primary booker, at time of booking by getting them to sign a rental agreement. And so, and that's for all guests, whether they're Airbnb, Vrbo, direct booking, which it doesn't matter how they come to me. They sign a rental agreement and I capture their email. StayFi is great because you can capture all members of the party that are staying in your place by when they log on to get the Wi-Fi, they have to put their email address in, and therefore you have that ability to capture all the guests, which is great. I guess you just have to also have a way, I guess, of figuring out who are kids and who are not, because you wouldn't want to be marketing to children. But but anyway, and then yes, and then I would send, I would send, I would have a plan in place for touching base with guests, a few times a year at least. I do it at least once a quarter, once a month, if you have something to share. And so, and that could be like, whether it be news of the area, maybe new things you've added to your property, maybe you're promoting, you've got some gap nights and you've got a special offer for guests. You want to give them the opportunity to book early dates for their summer or their winter vacations, those
Mm.
kinds of things. And so, that's what I would recommend in terms of the direct bookings. But then, like once you start emailing them, again, you want to make it easy, right? Here's my website. Go check your dates out, get a quote. You can book now. Let them have the ability to do all that. You don't want to have a ton of friction when it comes to booking your direct, because if there's friction, guess where they're going to go? They're going to go back to Airbnb and Vrbo to book their stay because it's easier for them to do that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Um, let's say someone is emailing their past guests and they're not getting direct bookings. Let's say they collected emails for 3 months and they decide, I'm going to start building this direct booking business. I've been collecting emails, I've listened to Jen's advice, and I'm sending them out and I'm not getting any bookings. What advice do you have for that person? Or I guess maybe is it an expectation thing of like what should their expectation be of how long does this take, and
Mhm.
when will the direct booking start? But any advice, I guess, two-part question. Any advice for that person on okay things to evaluate or tinker with or tweak in the messaging? And then the second part is there just like a ramp up time that has a little bit of time needed, and that should be the expectation, and then it'll start to develop.
Yeah. So great question. So it will take a while. Like it's not going to be instant, right? Like it took me a number of years to get to my 50%, right? And I think too, you also have to be realistic with your market and the type of property you have. Like, is your property well suited for repeat stays? So if not, then that could be a bit of a challenge from your direct booking strategy. Like if that's the case, then you would really be looking to get direct bookings for that first time stay. So you might have a different strategy, right? It might be more Facebook ads, it might be more of a social media presence, right? But if you're particularly trying to nurture guests that have already stayed in your property, then it does take time. And the other thing I would say, and this has happened to me numerous times, so I've sent like an email in January. I usually do like a Happy New Year email. And I usually give them some area news and just like updates, or I thank them for their stay, or I talk a little bit about like the types of people that came and like where everybody came from, things like that. Like, is that so that particular email may not result in direct bookings, but people save my email. And like 7 months later, someone responds to that email and says they want to book. It's crazy. So that's where I'd be like, yeah, you can't necessarily expect that people are going to be like instantly booking, because like they may not be looking to book a stay immediately, but it helps remind them about you and your property and stuff. So in terms of messaging, I just try to make it a bit value add, not all about you, not all about your property. Like, again, talking about the area, and like I always like to do, we like to do every year, try to do some sort of an upgrade to our property. So, share that and the benefit to them on that. And then just, yeah, area news, also promoting, like I said, certain dates, things like that. So again, there's a value add there for them for being kind of on your newsletter. And then what I would say is, so that you don't get discouraged around the fact, okay, oh, that didn't result in direct bookings, is look at your open rates, look at people clicking on your links and stuff. And so when I see that, then I'm like, oh, like people are enjoying the content because they're opening it, they're clicking, they're going to my website, they're checking dates out. Do I know why they didn't book? Well, maybe I don't know. I could always follow up with them, right? So that all is good too. And then as long as your unsubscribe rates are low, which I find mine are, then that's a good indication as well that people are enjoying hearing from you. They just maybe aren't taking action quite yet on that particular email. So,
So good. That is awesome, Jen. Honestly, even because we make updates every year at our property and never thought about doing that, but people like to be heard. Like if they
mhm,
gave feedback and then you have an update,
yeah,
like that's something that I'm just thinking that we should email even specific people that said, "Hey, the mattress was a little firm for us. Oh, we actually just
yeah,
updated all the mattresses. We'd love to have you back and test it out." Or we put golf simulators in our properties. Like it's an excuse to reach out to someone and
totally.
they might want to know about it anyway. So that is so so good. So for people out there, I would listen to that part a few times specifically, or if you don't feel like you have anything to say to people, that's what you can say to people or what's going on in the area. So I just love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, because things are always changing, right? And there's new things, like even like in our resort this year in the summertime, they added like a roller coaster down, and they put like one of those rope courses and stuff. And like, like people might not know that, and that's kind of great. Like that's kind of a cool activity to do with kids. The roller coaster, it doesn't require any skill. It's fun. You get to see them out, and so it's just like, yeah, sharing that kind of information with people gives them another reason to come and explore the area again and stay at your place, right? So,
Love that. That's really good. I
yeah.
guess just one specific, like doubling down into it a little, is how often do you email now, or is it not a set schedule?
Yeah, I do. Definitely, I do 4 times a year for sure. So I usually do New Year's, and then I'll do, and then I fill it when I have gaps. So if I feel like I have something to offer, that it like something new to say, or like I have yeah, like I have gaps in my calendar and I want to offer a special promotion and try to fill that with past guests, then I
Hmm.
then I fill it. So, and like also, like it also would depend on how many properties you have. Like I have one property. So once the dates are full, it's full, right? But if I had multiple properties in the same area, I would probably do monthly for sure. But for myself, I do 4 times a year, and then I fill it like I fill it in. And then I would do another one like to fill summer dates, because my place usually books out in the summer. So and I have a lot of repeat guests. So I want to give them first opportunity to book their dates before it starts booking up with like kind of new bookings or new guests. And then I same for my winter dates, is I'll let people know that our ski dates are open. And so if they want to book their ski time, they can do that as well. And then, like I said, I kind of just fill in from there. So yeah. So like,
Love
yeah,
that.
and those touch points, work. And like I said, I sometimes I get bookings immediately, and sometimes it takes a while. And the other thing I do too, which is also a tip, is I cross promote my properties. So because a lot of people from like where we live, Western Canada, travel to Maui all the time, then I will also promote in a lot of my communication, and I promote my Canadian property, my Canadian ski property to my Maui people, and vice versa. So that's also a great thing that you can do within your email communication too.
I love
Yeah.
that. Just to highlight one thing you said, I think there's like a lot of value in potentially like positioning scarcity, like, but also as a value add to them in the sense of, hey, sending this out to start the year. I know you had a good experience. I just wanted to offer it up at a discount before it gets booked this year. So then now they're thinking, oh, I want to jump on
Mhm.
this. Jen was thinking of me and taking a little bit
Totally.
more on that. So there's a little bit of psychology here, but just marketing and value add. And I would encourage people to think about how you like to be marketed too. But there's a lot of tips and tactics we're talking about here that can be directly applied. So I highly, highly recommend people implement some of these and also talk to Jen. And we'll talk about at the end of how people can kind of work with Jen and just, get some of her hand holding and guidance on these type of things. Okay. So that's really important. One specific thing that we've been messing around with, we haven't done it yet, but I think I know your answer on this. Is we're gonna have messaging, we're gonna be emailing, but something that we don't have in the properties right now is anything like physical that we put in the properties that talks about or drives people to a direct booking site. We don't have like a
Mhm.
QR code or even just in our physical guidebooks or even just something pinned on our fridge. Do
Yeah.
you have anything like that? Do you recommend anything like that?
Yeah.
Just as another way for people to stumble upon your direct booking options and
Yeah.
work with you that way.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I would as like, yes, I would definitely have information in the properties. So, house manual, if you still do the printed version of a house manual or on your online version, do that. QR codes obviously are great, whether it be, yes, on the fridge. I usually do a little welcome postcard to all of my guests. And when I have the opportunity to handwrite a little message to them, I also do that as
Mm,
well. And then I have website and, QR code for people to do that. I keep business cards by the pens and yeah, so I have various areas or information for people can grab. And that's the other thing too, again, because I don't currently have stay-fi in my property right now, but if there are guests that are staying there that are interested in booking the property another time, because my one property is a bit larger, and so sometimes it's groups of guys, or it's groups of friends, or it's two families, but the primary booker booked the property, and so then the other family might be interested in coming back again. So then that gives them the opportunity to grab my business card or grab the website so that they can come, and that happens as well too, right? Is I get people who have stayed at the property who come back and stay, but then they're the primary booker now, whereas the first time they were just one of the party.
got it. Very cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Super tactical. Shifting gears here a little bit, I want to talk about maybe some of the reasons people have hesitations with this. Some of them might be just limiting beliefs. Some of them might be legitimate fears. I've heard
Mhm.
people talk about an insurance concern they have. Property they have is covered by a certain type of insurance or Airbnb. So, what can you say to put people's minds at ease, or any
Yeah.
recommendations on how they handle that?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And I hear this as an objection all the time when I suggest to people, oh, you should get a direct booking website, or they're complaining about the OTA. And it's like, well, get a direct booking site. Oh, well, no, I couldn't because, Airbnb covers me. And so, I mean, I think that Airbnb does a great job marketing that, but the reality is sometimes it's not so easy to get them to cover damage. And so the question is really how much control do you want to give somebody else over damage with your property? So you can certainly still rely on that, I guess, if it does come through Airbnb, but it never hurts to have your own coverage in place so that if that fails you, then you've got coverage. So a couple things that I would recommend. First and foremost is screen your guests. So you can start by just even getting a rental agreement signed and asking for ID and a security deposit at time of booking. If you use a PMS tool, you can do this with any channel, including Airbnb. So right away, you're going to get a better guest that's coming to your property. And if, say, the Airbnb cover doesn't kick in, then you have the opportunity to take care of damage by charging that guest's credit card and work through that process as well. So that would be one thing. There's also other tools out there that actually do some guest validation or like verification, which is like Superhog would be another tool that you could consider using. So there's that. Now, in addition to that, you can also buy damage protection. OwnerRes offers a damage protection through Rental Guardian. And
Mm,
so for a very small fee, I mean, it varies, I think as little as $13, as much as like $79, depending on the coverage that you want to take. You can basically protect your property against accidental damage, and it's pretty easy. Like I have used coverage like that coverage myself, and had small damage, whether it be like a chair gets broken or barbecue got like something got burned on the barbecue, or recently my window crank was broken, and it's super easy. You submit photos, a little explanation at the receipt, and it gets covered. Like, really, no questions asked. And like, that is way easier than sometimes going through the whole Airbnb process, because I've been through that process as well. So there's that, and then you also could, and so sorry, you could even charge that back to the guest. You could either just add it as a fee, or you could put it into your rental rate so that it's even being covered by the guest, whether you want to be transparent about it or not. And then that way, that's being covered. And so that takes away some of the stress or the risk that someone might feel about the fact that Airbnb is covering their damage. And then the other thing I would, or the other thing you could do, depending on how many properties, you could just self-insure. So you know what? Just start charging guests $50 per booking, and start to just get a little bit of a fund to the side. And if you end up with some damage, like obviously it takes you probably about a year to get a little bit of money in there, but you'll end up with some money there. And then if you get small damage, just cover it yourself and don't even bother. Like, especially if it's small damage, right? Like, you don't even need to go to the guest. You just cover it. They've already kind of paid for that. So that would be another way to go about it. I mean, but of course, if you really wanted to have protection for that really big damage, then I would suggest whether it's Super Hog or like some of the damage protection that you can get, whether it's through a PMS tool or even individually, you can get coverage that takes care of that concern for damage. And you have a security deposit. So again, even if it's not accidental damage and it's been deliberate damage, well, then you have the authorization to, if you've gone through the right process of signing a rental agreement and disclose that if there's damage, you will be charging the card on file, then you also have that protection as well. So again, this just comes around to control of your business, right? And
mhm.
I've just given like 3 or 4 ideas around how you can handle that, right? That
Yeah.
you don't have to be so reliant on Airbnb and their coverage. And you still can be reliant on theirs too. Like, that's the
Mhm.
thing. So you have all these options available.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's not a reason not to do it. It's just
No.
something that I think it's an easy excuse. You mentioned rental agreement a few times. For those
Yeah.
wondering what you mean by that, I think some people would actually be surprised that you are getting one you said on every stay.
Yeah,
Is that for
I am.
direct or regular?
Airbnb, Vrbo, Direct,
Any
doesn't
stay.
matter how they come to me, they sign a rental agreement. Yeah.
So can we just talk about like the operations of that? Someone comes to your listing on Airbnb.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about direct. They find the property. They maybe you could comment if you allow instant book or not, but they book the property.
Yeah.
What does like the operations look like of getting them to sign a rental agreement? Like communicating that to them, and
Yeah.
then hopefully not losing a booking for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's super seamless in terms of doing it even through Airbnb. There are a few things that you need to be transparent and disclose that you require that's one of your house rules, is that you require a rental agreement to be signed. And so I just so that's part of the booking rules. I like to try to put that in a few places. I have it in my description at the end. I have it through the booking process, so they like when they see it that it is a requirement. I have the actual like a guest friendly version of my rental agreement in my house rules so that people can read it, so that they're not like having to agree to the booking and not know what they need to sign, because I don't feel that that's necessarily fair. Like, I feel like people should be able to read what it is that they need to sign if it's part of the booking, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And so that there's transparency there. And then when they actually sign the document, it's nothing, if they've read the rules, it's not new to them, right? It's the same. And so, yeah, and so then there's a link. It's all digital. So, and it goes through Airbnb. So there's transparency there that I'm not trying to do this off the platform or that the platform isn't aware of it. It is fine. Like this is, you are allowed to do it. Like, so it is authorized by Airbnb. And so, yeah, it's pretty seamless. So somebody makes their instant booking, they book. The system automatically triggers a template that sends to them, says, "Thank you so much. As part of as we mentioned in our host, we know like it's sort of friendly. Like we know you want to get on to the fun parts of planning your trip. However, there's just one more step that we need you to take to finalize your booking. Please just sign, the rental agreement. The link is there. This comes through the Airbnb, through their Airbnb app or their like, so again, this isn't an email. They just click on the link. It goes to a digital legal agreement. They can read through it, sign it at the end, and it's done. And then my system sends them a copy of the agreement. That I think it gets emailed to them. But that's fine. Like that's just sort of a copy of of what they signed. And I'll just talk a little bit about why I have people sign a rental agreement. So there's a couple of reasons. One is, um, first of all, I have a larger property, and so I have them actually list all guests that will be staying in the property, and that usually flushes out people who are looking to do maximum occupancy. Those that don't want to sign
Mm.
my rental agreement is usually because they're coming with more people than they said are on the booking. So then that becomes a discussion, and then it usually results in them canceling their booking because they were over, like they were breaking one of my house rules, which is maximum over occupancy. The other reason is just obviously for emergency. I want to know who's staying in my property. And if there was ever an issue or a concern, like a fire or whatever, I want to know who's in the property. And then third is that if you had something horrible, this is just risk management, right? The chances of this happening, very slim, but it really just comes down to risk management. If you had an issue and something bad really happened in your property and you had some sort of liability or you needed to go to court or whatever, Airbnb is not going to give you anything, like nothing. Not even that the guest agreed to your house rules. So you would have nothing. So you imagine going to court and you don't have ID from the guest. You don't have anything. You just have their name, their profile from
Mm.
Airbnb, right? So there's a huge risk factor there. And so for all those reasons, again, this is your business. So for that, and then the other thing, I'll just add one more thing, is I just feel like it sets expectations, like it's just another opportunity for people to review your house rules. And like I said, like it flushes out for me over occupancy all the time. And so I end up, and sure, I lose the booking, but like, I don't want 20 people in my place. Like, that's a problem for me. It's a problem for what will be my permit. It'll be a problem for my neighbors. It's over occupancy, it's wear and tear on my property. Like, I don't want that booking anyway, right? So I'm just, yeah, I'm just kind of getting ahead of the a potential problem anyway. So yeah.
Makes total sense. How often would you say it does lead to a cancellation? Like out
Yeah,
of 10?
Yeah, I would say less than 1% of all my bookings. So I will get one booking, okay, say one, probably less than that. One booking a year, I might have somebody say they don't want to sign the
Oh,
rental agreement, or they don't want to like upload their ID, or they don't want to do a security deposit. And that's fine. I just say that's fine. I get them to cancel. Don't like, because they're now technically breaking my house rules by not signing the rent legal agreement. And so I
mm,
just say, that's fine. You go ahead and cancel. And so that I don't take a hit on the cancellation from Airbnb. And if this is happening all within like a 24-hour window, regardless of my cancellation policy, I will just refund them. Like I'm not looking to try to like hold somebody's money because they didn't read my rules or whatever. So yeah, I mean, obviously if it's like, I would never let it go 2 weeks anyway, but like, certainly you wouldn't want them holding your dates and then, not agreeing to doing the rental agreement. But yeah, I take care of that really quickly. All of that happens within 48 hours of the booking. If they haven't signed my rental agreement within 48 hours, then I proceed to cancel or get them to cancel the booking because they're not complying with the house rules that I have set in the booking. But yeah, you will get a little friction for sure. I'm not saying that you won't get, because and a lot of Airbnb guests aren't used to it, right? Most Airbnb hosts don't ask for it. So, but again, it's part of running a real business, right? So
For sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a protection that eh, I'm surprised more people don't do. So it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And just one more, I guess, like logistics detail here on the security deposit. Any preferred ways that you like getting the deposit, or things that you've learned or wish you would have done differently as far as collecting it? Payment methods, all those sorts of things.
Hmm. Yeah, again, this is done super seamless. It's done all at the same time. So they sign the rental agreement and they put their card information. It's all like, again, the PMS tool, which I use OwnerRez, allows me to do it in one simple step. So it's not like they have to do multiple steps. It takes like seriously takes 2 minutes for them to sign the agreement and put their credit card information in. And I just do a hold. Back in the day, I used to do like an actual deposit, whether that was by check or whether it was like I actually charged the card. But I moved away from that for a couple of reasons. One was I was started to have to pay fees on the deposits. It was costing me money to take the deposit, and so with a hold, there are no fees. And I just position that as well as, listen, hotels do it, so do we. And it's true. You cannot check into a hotel without providing your ID, without giving a security deposit, right, at time of booking. And you do sign a legal agreement. You just don't realize you do it because you check that little box that says, "Do you agree to our terms?" And if you actually clicked on their terms, it's also, a couple pages longs of terms and conditions that you agree to stay in that hotel, right? So we're just doing what hotels do. I mean, this is really common practice. The unfortunate thing is Airbnb has made it so simple for people that they make it seem like this is bad that these owners are asking for this, right? That's like the unfortunate part is that guests get used to this really friction-free way of just going and renting somebody else's $1 million place, right? But the reality is you cannot even rent a very basic hotel room with two beds and a bathroom without providing this information. So therefore, that is part of my messaging. Hotels do it, so do we.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to just explain it to people in words and terms they understand or like
Yeah.
kind of trained with. So I totally get that. Um, I kind of look at the things that I just mentioned here as some reasons people might look at as excuses to not do direct bookings, like, oh, this is
Mhm.
hard to learn the operations, or it's complicated, or I might lose guests. That's kind of what I was thinking of in my line of questioning, just to kind of like overcome those.
Mhm.
But I'm curious for you, what are some other objections you hear people say, like things that you just know are BS, or they're just coming up with an excuse, or when you're talking to potential clients, like, and I'm curious what your overcomes are for them, or just,
Mhm.
how you think about it. If there's a few that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the damage one was always the big one, but like obviously that if they just understood, it's really not that hard. And then, I mean, I think probably just putting the systems in place. I mean, there like there is some work there for sure. Like you've got to put the pieces together. But I would say that once you do, there's so much reward. Like like between streamlining your business, right? Because with a PMS system, you can streamline everything in one tool. So like right now, if you're like listed on Vrbo and Booking.com and Airbnb and you don't have a property management system, every time you go change your pricing, you got to go into each one and do that. Or you change your photos because you put in a new deck that summer. Well, you got to go in each one and do that. So there's time savings there for people. You get more control, of course, over your business. The tools also allow you to streamline all your communication, right? And then you have the opportunity to make more money, right? So there's pricing strategies that you can put into place that allow you to make more money. So, like, if somebody was like, oh, I don't want to do it and so much work, it's like, well, like you'll benefit from this. You're going to save time. You're going to reduce mistakes. You're going to make more money. You'll get more bookings because you can make more money off of your repeat guests because you can charge a little bit more than what you charge on the platforms, but it's still way less than what they pay on the platform because they're saving all the guest fees, right? You can automate and book your orphan nights way easier because you can have your system send automatic offers to your existing bookings to try to fill those dates before and after existing stays. So you make money there. You can do all your discounting and promoting from one central spot, which allows you, again, you'll get increased search results on the platforms. You're likely going to book your property more. So there's so many more like reasons to do it that just so offset any concerns of, I'm not tech savvy, or I'm scared of the risk of having, of the risk of booking direct. Um, it's really is a lot easier than you could possibly imagine. Yeah.
Hmm.
And make
For
more
sure.
money.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, I guess just before we talk about ways to get in touch and some of your communities and things, I just have one, I guess, last tactical question, just because I know you are very systems and process oriented, which
Yeah.
I love, is things you do to ensure you get a great review.
Mm.
Outside of having an amazing property and doing right by the customer as far as communication, but any things you do to either hint at it or to, I don't know, get ahead of bad reviews communication wise,
Yeah.
or just like any tips or tactics that come to mind.
Yeah, so with reviews, I mean, I do feel like the OTAs do a really good job of getting reviews. Like Airbnb, kind of like they're great, and same with Vrbo. I would say both of them, their follow up. But yeah, I mean, messaging is still key. Like again, from the time somebody sends an inquiry, that's where it starts, right? It's even before they come and stay at your property that your review, people are evaluating you on the overall experience. So if I get an inquiry and somebody's looking for information, I'm making sure that I first, I'm super quick to get back to people, like within an hour if you can, responding to people, and then sending if they have questions about the area or whatever. So really kind of going above and beyond and giving people tips or ideas and that sort of thing. So starting there, and then I have a real a proven guest messaging system, I would call it that, or like I have a template pack actually that I make available and that I do that's on my you can grab on my website. But yeah, just like making sure that the inquiry and then access information, that you're providing the right clear access information and in a timely manner. Like I know some people out there are giving people access information on the day of arrival. Like to me, that's like I personally don't think that that's enough time. I mean, people sometimes are traveling and they lose cell coverage, or they are traveling across countries and they don't have as much data and stuff. Like, give people information in advance, especially if you've got the tools in place that control access to the actual property, right? Like I use remote lock, so nobody's getting into my place any earlier than when the lock lets them in. So I can give them information in advance, and then do a check-in with them, make sure you're doing a welcome message, and give people the opportunity to give you feedback while they're staying in the property. Don't wait until they've left to ask for the feedback. And then if they tell you something, fix it, right? So if somebody says, "Oh, the pillows are too hard," or I don't know, whatever, the something's broken, the air conditioning's not working. Well, it gives you the chance to fix it while they're still there. And then
Hmm.
you've gone out of your way. Whereas like a lot of people wait until the end and they don't give that opportunity to find out if there was something wrong. And then they get the bad review. They find out about it on the review, right? So that, and then yeah, so welcome email, and then even at checkout, if there was something that wasn't to your side, to up to your standards, please tell us privately, like, so we can fix it and make it right for you or our future guests. So again, lots of opportunities to let people know about their stay. That doesn't happen publicly. So, again, it's all guest messaging, right? So that's sort of my whole process there. And then I do find, like I said, Airbnb, VRBO do a really good job at capturing the reviews. I do send for my direct bookings. I have a template and a trigger that sends asking people for reviews, because those aren't going to be captured by the channels, so that I can capture them myself and then showcase them on my website. So yeah, a few tips there. Part of it is messaging. A lot of it is even just automated communication so that you can capture that feedback. Yeah.
Awesome. So, winding down a little bit, you mentioned you have a template guide, which is
Yeah.
amazing. I think that's just an amazing like thing to offer too. What's the best way for people to get that, and then also to check you out and get in touch and reach out? And I'm sure people have questions about, just a lot of the things you mentioned, but also how they can get maybe help setting some of this stuff up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you can go to my website, thehostapproach.com, and on my website there's a work with me section, and there you can find the templates. So I've got actually a whole bundle. It's not just even the guest templates. I even have templates to handle like problem guests and all of that. So I've got a whole kind of bundle there. And so if somebody's interested in that, you can go and check that out. I do have, if somebody's looking for just a way to sort of get started on moving their business to be more independent and get a direct booking website, I have a free guide. And it is located at thehostapproach.com/break free. So if somebody wants to go there, they can download that free guide that just kind of outlines 5 proven methods to move beyond Airbnb or the OTAs, and talks a bit, gets into some of the things that we've talked about today. And then I'm also available for one-on-one coaching. And I'm looking to launch a group coaching program in the new year in February. And if anybody's interested in that, they can just either send me a DM, email me at jennifer@thehostapproach.com, or fill in my contact form on my website. Either way, anyway, find me and send me a message if you're interested in working with me in any sort of one-on-one or group coaching capacity. So yeah.
Awesome. We'll link all that, and I can just say with a lot of confidence, guys, that Jennifer's, you probably picked up on it, just super detail oriented, has thought a lot of these things through, does it in her own business, does it with other people, and excited to potentially work with Jennifer and have her speak more to you guys on the podcast and groups, but just everything she does seems to be the top tier and detailed, which is what we love. So really, really appreciate that. I guess, Jennifer, before we get you out of here, any closing words or anything people can follow up on or just go away thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say from a mindset perspective is just take action. Like don't get hung up in the, oh my gosh, this seems too big. It's just, you know what? You don't need to have it all figured out. Just start to take action and decide on one thing you're going to do, whether it's the PMS or direct booking website or whatever, and just start moving forward with it. Like just like to sit there and feel overwhelmed with all the different options and the choices, like you're never going to take action. So I would just say, just you don't have to have it all figured out. You're going to learn as you go along, and just yeah, take action in 2025. It's a great time to get started. So yeah.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for having me today. It was great chatting with you. I know we run our businesses very similar, and so it's always great to chat with somebody who understands and has the same goals in terms of direct bookings and moving your business that way. So thanks, Jonathan,
100%.
for having me. Mhm.
Really appreciate it, Jen. Look forward to seeing you grow in 25 and doing more together. So thank you again for coming on.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.